Hello and welcome. This is Vanessa Growlish, and today we're going to talk about the math behind finance psychopath. I know. When we think of psychopath, we just think of serial killers, right? Like really scary people. And yes, they are. But finance psychopath, actually, we deal with them, and I think they have become a little bit more acceptable according to this article. So let me go ahead and show you how incredible how in this article they took a bunch of business majors and they found a strong relationship between finance major and basically having psychopath traits. But let me go ahead and just share the article so we can speak here objectively. So let me just show you. I was at the beginning of this podcast very excited because I'm still excited, but I was like, I'm going to talk about psychopath, and I was thinking about serial killers and all that. And then I started looking at American Psycho, which is a very famous movie, and then I was like, wait, what about Financial Psychopath? And then I came up with this incredible article. And basically, this is what it is. They went ahead and they took 118 business majors participants, right? And they gave them what is called the Psychopathic Personality Inventory Test. So what this test does is just, you're going to be asked questions. And what they do is they examine your psychopathic personality traits, if you have them. And from there, what you're going to come out, from this test is to see what are your tendencies and their different tendencies. And, I'm putting the link of this research, in the description, because all of the data is in the bottom, and it's honestly, whoever likes numbers is just fascinated. But let's just not be technical today. We're just going to talk about what the results of this study were. The brain of a psychopath versus a non-psychopath, I don't want to say the word normal because it's psychopath versus non-psychopath, you're going to see that their brain is just different because they have lack of empathy. They basically have antisocial disorders. Psychopaths are just basically traits that they're born with, to put it away. I think this is the reason why they say a psychopath is born, but a sociopath is made. And that reminds me, we'll do sociopath in the next podcast. So then what happens? They find that the psychopathy is related to business majors more than others. And this is what they say. Additionally, we find that this result is primarily driven by the secondary trait of, and this is what the psychopaths have, self-centered impulsivity. And self-centered impulsivity, the definition of this is just basically disregard for social norms and culturally acceptable behaviors. They don't care. They just basically, if they have to make a decision that they feel is rationally, financially well done, they're not going to care about social norms or culturally acceptable behavior. And then they also find that there's a primary trait of rebellious non-conformity. And the definition of this is actively going against established social norms. Therefore, the results show that self-centered impulsivity is negatively related to the percentage bias, while psychopathy is negatively related to the discounting rate. Overall, we find that these traits might be beneficial to more rational financial decisions. Yes. In fact, what the article is explaining here is that why are finance majors, they say that they're more significantly more narcissistic, and less fearless than other business majors. And because of that, they tend to be, psychopaths, financial psychopaths that attract us to these careers. So then what happens here? Let's start with the introduction just to understand where all of this comes from. Now, we know that Robert Hare, and this is basically one of the leading researchers in psychopathy, he actually said, if he wasn't studying psychopath, and someone quoted, in prisons, he will do it at the stock exchange. And he just says, additional evidence of the high prevalence of psychopathy in the finance economic professions comes from criminal legal studies of Ponzi schemes. And what the Ponzi scheme does is that he starts collecting the money. He never reinvests the money. And what he does is just basically, grabs the money and then he will just, give those returns to the other client. And then you get like a snowball effect, that there is a point that everyone wants their money back. And that's when the Ponzi scheme says, oop, I don't have any of your money. I never invested it. We've seen it with Enron. And they talk about here about Enron. And I don't know if you remember Enron, but Enron is an American company that basically they defrauded, so many people, destroyed their financial future. And they say here, for example, in Body, which I guess this is one of the researchers, claims that many former employees of Enron, including the CEO, exhibited traits of a stereotypical psychopath. A conclusion consistent with the catastrophic financial actions. There's so many documentaries about Enron. When you study finance, they put Enron in your face. You're like, don't do this, what they did. So as you can see here that Financial Psychopath, not all of them, but they have a tendency of have a very high IQ. They obviously, they have really good communication skills. They're very strategic. They have a strategic thinking. They can be creative. However, they also show that they tend to rate poorly in corporation management skills and overall accomplishments. The present study advances this body of evidence by showing how psychopathic personality traits relate to financial decision making. Now, remember, there are two traits in this study that they were able to see: self-centered impulsivity and the rebellious non-conformity. That basically what makes the financial psychopath to be better in doing what is called financial decisions. To remember is that CEOs and any finance major, the main purpose is to do what? Maximization of the company, shareholders' wealth, right? You need to make sure that everyone is happy. Your job is to make sure that this company is all this time dividends, stocks, the stock price is good. So it's not like it's a really easy job. Everyone wants to, see their stock go up and, make money and be happy. But if you're the CEO of a $30 million company, you're going to have a lot of stress. You're going to have high levels of imagine just basically no making the right moves, and then people just lose money. If you're a psychopath, it will be like, oh, too bad. If you are a non-psychopath, you might feel like, oh wow, maybe I shouldn't make this decision because people are going to be affected by that. So what happens with the psychopath? So let me find out here what it says here. Okay. When they say here, it says, finance majors display different fundamental traits than other business majors because finance majors are working more with the self-interest model. Well, of course, if you're an economist and you have to go by the wealth of nations, all what you're going to go is by rationally what, you have limited resources and you have to maximize those resources. And if you ask the question of how do we distribute food to someone that does sociology, the answer is going to be completely different than if you ask the same question to someone that is in finance or in economics. Most likely the economics person is just going to be like, we need to figure out what is the best outcome that is going to, produce the best resources and the whole thing. The sociologists are going to be more into, like, we need to make sure that everyone is protected. We need to make sure that society is doing well. So as you can see here, it's not like economics are bad people. It's just basically the way that, you have to think, because that's what economics is, right? Try to figure it out how to do the best with limited resources. So they say here that there are two hypotheses that might explain the prevalence of antisocial-like behavior in economics. And when we say economics, you can also say that on finance majors. First of all, the learning hypothesis, and two, the self-selection hypothesis. So what happens? The learning hypothesis states the exposure of the self-interest model of economics makes individuals behave in a more antisocial manner during financial decision-making. Now, the self-selection hypothesis, which is the second one, it states that individuals with a natural tendency to behave in antisocial ways are more likely to pursue careers in finance and economics. When they did the study here, they of the brain structure, and this is what we were showing, the results provide a biological explanation as to why psychopaths have been differently from non-psychopaths when making social decisions, and why we expect to find that psychopathic traits will be related to financial decision making. They don't have empathy. They have a lack of empathy. They're just going to be impulsive. These are people that need to make decisions fast, right? So, and again, they just don't care. So there is a high tendency, as we see it here, that if you are someone that has psychopathic traits, most likely, and if you can make it to the financial world, that's basically the type of major you're going to find. Now, the article, and again, I'm going to leave it in the, so you can, take a look at it. It's a very, very good article, and it has a lot of data. And you can see here the data. Let me just show you really quick this data. Okay, so this is the article. They had a total of 118 people, 67 females, 51 males. And then look, accounting, finance. And then when you go here, look at this. This is the PPI R scores by major. Now, the PPI test, basically what it tests is your traits, right, of being, the psychopathic dimensions. Notice how the finance are much, much higher right here in some of the traits than other majors. So again, I welcome you, and I'm going to go ahead and put this on the screen to see this because it's just fascinating. So what do we learn from all this? Well, I'm going to tell you, I am a finance major, and I can understand why this story makes completely sense. When you read The Wealth of Nations, when you are doing, finance, or like any of this, all you're doing is, again, measuring risk and reward. And your job as a finance person is to basically get $100, for example, for a client, invest that $100, get a positive return, make sure your net present value is positive. So many things, and everything always towards increasing the shareholders' wealth. So it's not like you can be, let me think about it. No, you have to be a very rational person. You need to know, you need to understand your math skills, because with that, you're going to be able to understand the data. And then from the data, you can, do some, make, better decisions. But we can see here that the decision making of a financial psychopath is going to be completely different of a non-psychopath. With this, I'll let you think about it. I want you to read the article. It's extremely helpful to, after all of this information, to really understand what financial psychopaths, and not so much like the CEOs or anything like that. You might have someone around you that all of a sudden, a broker, for example, that wants you to invest on stock or something weird. Try to think about it and try to see like, I wonder if this person is a psychopath or a non-psychopath. So, we always need to make sure that we're aware of who we give our money to. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I'll see you next time.